At my promotion party, a waitress leaned close and whispered, "Don't drink that." I froze, confused, but before I could ask why, my so-called friends were already raising their glasses. 20 minutes later, as the music played and laughter filled the hall, something happened that changed everything. This is the story of how one celebration turned into my worst nightmare. Hello, family. Welcome back. Before we begin, I have a small but heartfelt request. Please subscribe. Your support is what keeps these stories alive. Every time you click that button, you're helping us share voices that would otherwise be forgotten and stories that deserve to be heard. And in the comments, tell us where you're watching from, because together, we are not just telling stories, we are keeping hope alive. I never thought the night of my biggest victory would turn into the beginning of my nightmare. I was 32 years old, standing at the entrance of the Grandview Hotel ballroom, watching the glittering lights bounce off the champagne glasses. My name was on everyone's lips. Emily Carter, the new vice president. For years I had worked myself to the bone. Late nights in the office, missed birthdays, skipped holidays. My husband Daniel always told me I was chasing something that would never love me back. But tonight, I proved him wrong. The room was full of colleagues, friends, even a few rivals who now wore polite smiles. My best friend Rachel, who had been with me since my early assistant days, was the first to throw her arms around me. "Emily, you did it!" she squealed, pulling me into a hug that felt warm, but tight. Almost too tight. I laughed nervously. "We did it, Rach. Couldn't have survived those long nights without you." She stepped back, her blue dress sparkling under the chandeliers. "You've earned this. Everyone sees you as the strong one now. The one who made it." Daniel came up behind me, his hand on my waist. He looked devastatingly handsome in his tailored black suit, but his smile didn't quite reach his eyes. "To my beautiful wife," he announced, raising his glass for others to hear, "the smartest woman in the room." Everyone around us clapped. My chest swelled with pride. This was it, the validation I'd been waiting for all my life. But then it happened. As I reached for a glass from the passing tray, a young waitress leaned in close. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "Don't drink that," she murmured. I froze, my hands still hovering above the sparkling liquid. "What?" I whispered back, my throat dry. Her eyes darted around nervously. She couldn't have been older than 22, with dark hair pulled into a neat bun. "Just trust me, don't." Then she was gone, slipping back into the crowd before I could say another word. I blinked, confused. My heart started to thud. "Don't drink that? Why? What did she mean?" Before I could process it, Daniel appeared at my side again, already holding 2 glasses. He pushed one into my hand. "Babe, don't just stand there. Everyone's waiting for you to toast." Rachel came up beside him, her glass raised high. "Yes, Em, come on! Don't make us look silly standing here with our glasses in the air." Their voices overlapped with the chatter of others shouting, "Speech! Speech!" I looked down at the bubbling champagne in my hand. My stomach twisted. That waitress's words echoed in my head. "Don't drink that." Rachel nudged me playfully. "What are you waiting for? It's just champagne." Daniel leaned close, his breath warm against my ear. "Don't overthink. Relax for once." I forced a smile and cleared my throat. All right, I'll say something." I raised the glass, though my fingers trembled slightly. "Thank you, everyone. My voice caught. I steadied it. "This promotion isn't just mine. It's for every person who stayed late, who worked weekends, who believed in our vision. Tonight, we celebrate all of us." Cheers erupted. Glasses clinked all around. And then, under the pressure of dozens of eyes watching me, I lifted the glass to my lips. But at the very last second, I let the bubbles only touch my mouth, pretending to sip. No one noticed. Or so I thought. Rachel's eyes lingered on me for half a second too long. Her smile didn't fade, but I caught something behind it, something sharp. 10 minutes later, I was still moving around the room, greeting people, laughing, nodding, listening to half-hearted compliments. But my stomach started to cramp. At first I thought it was nerves, or maybe the shrimp appetizer I had eaten earlier. But then the pain grew sharper. A cold sweat broke across my forehead, my legs felt heavy. Daniel was across the room, laughing with one of the senior partners. Rachel stood close to him, their heads tilted just a little too near. I blinked. Was I imagining it? No, the way her hand brushed his sleeve, it wasn't my imagination. "Emily?" A colleague's voice jolted me back. "Are you all right? You look pale." I forced a smile. "I'm fine. Just hot in here. But I wasn't fine. My vision blurred around the edges. The chandelier above me seemed to sway, even though I knew it wasn't moving. My glass slipped from my fingers, shattering on the marble floor. Gasps rose around me. Then everything tilted. My knees buckled. I could hear people shouting, chairs scraping. Daniel's voice rang out, panicked. "Emily!" But before the darkness swallowed me, I caught a glimpse of Rachel. Just a flash of her face through the crowd. She was smiling. Not wide, not obvious. Just a faint curl of her lips. A smirk. And as I fell, the last thing I heard was a low whisper, carried through the chaos, close enough to feel like it was inside my head. "Now it begins." Then everything went black. Darkness. But not silent darkness. I could hear voices around me, muffled, frantic, shoes clicking across marble, a woman crying out my name. My heart thundered in my chest, but my body felt like it belonged to someone else. Heavy, limp, distant. "Call an ambulance," a man shouted. "She's not breathing right," another voice cried. Then Daniel, his voice was louder than all the rest. "Emily, stay with me. Emily, wake up." But it was strange. There was no fear in his tone. He was loud, yes, but not desperate. His words were rehearsed, almost like he was acting for the audience gathering around. I tried to move my lips, to tell them I was still here, but my tongue felt thick, useless. My eyelids weighed 1,000 pounds, and then, like a radio dial tuning into a private station, I heard another voice. Calm, close, almost inside my ear. "She won't be the same after this." That was the point. My blood turned to ice. I wanted to scream, "Who said that? What's happening to me?" But nothing came out. My body was betraying me. Time slipped. I don't know if it was seconds or minutes, but I was being lifted. Daniel's arms under me, the smell of his cologne mixed with sweat. "Move out of the way, let us through," he barked, pushing through the crowd. I was carried, but his grip felt cold. Secure, but not loving. Through half-open eyes, I saw Rachel trailing behind. Concern painted across her face, her hand pressed to her chest like she was horrified. But her eyes, when they flicked to me, gleamed. It was like she knew something no one else did. The thought burned through me even as the darkness claimed me again. The hospital. When I opened my eyes again, I wasn't in the ballroom anymore. The bright chandeliers were gone. Instead, fluorescent lights hummed above me. The air smelled like antiseptic. A monitor beeped steadily to my left. My body ached, heavy and sore, as if I'd been run over. Daniel sat in a chair beside my bed, his tie loosened, his face pale. He leaned forward the moment I stirred. "Em, baby, you're awake." His hand covered mine, warm now, soft. His expression was worried, almost convincing. I croaked, my throat raw. What happened?" "You fainted at the party." He squeezed my hand gently. "Scared the life out of everyone." I frowned. No, I didn't just faint. Something was wrong. My drink." Daniel shook his head quickly, cutting me off. "No, Emily. The doctor said you were dehydrated, exhausted. You barely ate all day. You pushed yourself too hard." I searched his face. Was he lying? He looked tired, but there was something off in his eyes, like he wanted me to believe more than he wanted me to heal. I whispered, "But the waitress, she told me." Daniel's jaw tightened, just for a second. Then he smiled softly. "You probably imagined it. You were stressed. Big promotion, big night, all that pressure. Don't overthink it." I swallowed hard. My mind spun. Did I imagine it? The girl's warning had felt so real. Too real. Before I could ask again, the door opened. Rachel stepped in, carrying a bouquet of bright flowers. Her heels clicked softly against the hospital floor. "Oh, thank God you're awake," she exclaimed, rushing to my bedside. She leaned down, hugging me gently, her perfume flooding my senses. "You had us all terrified." I stared at her, trying to read her expression. She looked genuinely relieved. Too relieved. Her hand brushed mine as she set the flowers down on the side table. Her nails, red, perfectly polished, tapped against the vase as she arranged it. "You'll be back on your feet in no time," she said sweetly. "Don't worry about work. I'll keep everything running smoothly until you're back." The words sank like stones in my stomach. Until you're back. She sounded too comfortable, too ready to step into my place. Daniel nodded. "Rachel's been amazing. She's been handling calls from the office, updating the partners. She's making sure no one loses confidence while you rest." I clenched my fists under the blanket. While I rest? This wasn't rest. This was sabotage. But my body was weak and my voice was small. I couldn't argue, not yet. Rachel smiled at me, her eyes lingering just a little too long. You're lucky you have people who love you, Emily, people who'll take care of things when you can't. Her words were soft, but beneath them I felt something sharp, a hidden message. And as I lay there, still fragile, still unsure, the memory of her smirk as I collapsed flashed again in my mind. This wasn't just exhaustion, this wasn't dehydration, something had been done to me. And Rachel knew it. As Daniel and Rachel chatted over me, making plans, talking as if I weren't even there, my chest grew heavy with dread. I wasn't safe. Not in this room. Not with them. And the waitress, where was she? Why had she warned me? I closed my eyes, forcing myself to stay calm, but inside I made a silent vow. I would find out what they did to me, and I would make them regret ever underestimating me. Because whatever began that night, it wouldn't end the way they wanted. If you haven't subscribed yet, we'd love for you to join our community by hitting the subscribe button. Through our stories, we build hope and give a future to children and women who have been abused all over the world. Motivate us by subscribing and turning on your notification bell so you never miss a story that matters. Also, let us know in the comments, where are you watching from? And how did this story speak to you? When I woke up the next morning, sunlight was creeping through the hospital blinds. The steady beep of the monitor filled the silence. My body felt drained, like all the energy had been wrung out of me. Daniel was still sitting in the chair beside me, but this time his posture was slouched. His phone was in his hand, and his eyes weren't on me. They were glued to the screen, his thumb scrolling fast. I cleared my throat. "Daniel?" He looked up, startled, like he'd forgotten I was there. "You're awake." His tone was flat, more like an observation than relief. I frowned. "Did the doctor come back? Did they figure out what happened to me?" He put his phone down, sighed, and leaned forward. "Yeah, they ran some tests, said they found traces, some kind of sedative. But don't get carried away with that. It's not what you think." I blinked. "Not what I think? Daniel, someone drugged me." His jaw tightened. He rubbed the bridge of his nose like I was being difficult. "Or maybe you had too much champagne on an empty stomach, and now you're convincing yourself someone tried to poison you." My stomach nodded. "That's not what happened. I barely touched the glass. You saw me." He gave me a look, half smile, half warning. "Emily, listen to yourself. Do you know how paranoid you sound? Don't ruin your reputation over a story that isn't real." I swallowed hard. He wasn't worried. He was irritated, like my collapse was an inconvenience for him. Before I could argue again, there was a soft knock on the door. Rachel walked in, carrying another bouquet of flowers, all pink roses this time. "Good morning, sunshine," she said brightly, setting the flowers on the table. Her voice was full of cheer, but her eyes flicked between me and Daniel quickly, like she was measuring the space between us. "How are you feeling?" "Like I got hit by a truck," I muttered. Rachel clucked her tongue. "Well, that's what happens when you try to outdrink everyone at your own party." I froze. "Excuse me?" She laughed lightly, waving her hand. "Relax, I'm kidding. But seriously, Emily, people were shocked. You went down so fast. Some of the partners, well, they were worried. But don't stress. I told them you'd be fine." Her words sliced me open. She told them? Already she was speaking for me, smoothing things over, rewriting the story. I forced a smile. "Thank you, Rachel. You're always helpful." She leaned closer, her perfume sickly sweet. "You just focus on resting. I'll take care of the office until you're back." Behind her, Daniel's eyes met hers for a split second too long. My stomach twisted again, but not from the sedative. A week later, when I returned to work, the whispers had already spread like wildfire. Poor thing, couldn't handle the champagne. I heard she collapsed right in front of the board. Imagine getting a VP title and then embarrassing yourself on the same night. Everywhere I walked, conversations stopped. Smiles seemed polite but thin, their eyes full of doubt. Rachel was always there, her hand on my shoulder, her voice soft. "Don't worry, Em, people will forget soon." But then I overheard her in the break room one day, her tone different. "Yes, she's back, but she's not the same. She gets overwhelmed. I mean, she's my friend, but maybe she's not ready for the pressure." My chest ached. My best friend, the woman I trusted with everything, planting seeds of doubt about me while pretending to protect me. I confronted her later, my voice shaking. "Rachel, I heard what you said earlier." She looked at me with wide, innocent eyes. "What do you mean?" "You told someone I wasn't ready, that I get overwhelmed." She gasped softly. "Emily, that's not what I meant at all. People were asking questions, and I defended you. If anything, I was trying to protect your image." Her tone was smooth, believable. If I hadn't heard it myself, I might have fallen for it. But I had heard it, and I couldn't unhear it. At home, Daniel wasn't any better. He came home later and later, always with the excuse of working on a project with Rachel. Sometimes he'd shower immediately, like he wanted to wash off the smell of wherever he'd been. I tried to bring it up one night at dinner. "Daniel, are you spending more time with Rachel than with me?" He set his fork down hard. "Here we go again. Emily, not everything is a conspiracy. You're obsessed. I'm helping her with work because you've been out. Someone has to keep things from falling apart." I stared at him, my appetite gone. "And you don't think that should be me? I'm the VP now." He leaned back, shaking his head. "You're fragile right now. You collapsed in front of the entire firm. You don't get it. Your reputation is hanging by a thread. You should be grateful people like Rachel and I are holding things together." Fragile. The word stabbed me. That night, I couldn't sleep. I wandered down the hall to Daniel's office. The door was cracked. His voice floated out. "She's just not cut out for this," he was saying. "Yeah, it's embarrassing. She's a liability right now." I pressed my hand to my mouth to keep from gasping. He wasn't on a work call. He was laughing softly. "Don't worry. I've got it handled." Handled. Me. Like I was a problem to be managed. My chest tightened until it hurt to breathe. The next morning, I sat at my desk in the office, staring at the endless emails piling up when my phone buzzed. It wasn't a number I recognized. No contact name. Just a message. "They want to destroy you. Don't trust anyone." My blood ran cold. I looked around the office, but everyone seemed focused on their own work. Rachel wasn't at her desk. Daniel wasn't in sight. My fingers trembled as I read the message again. Who sent it? How did they know? And most of all, who exactly was they? I leaned back in my chair, heart pounding. My whole world was collapsing. The promotion that was supposed to be my greatest triumph had become a trap. My reputation was rotting from the inside. My best friend was whispering doubts. My husband was laughing at my weakness. And now, someone out there knew the truth. Someone was watching, and they wanted me to know I wasn't safe. The anonymous text haunted me for days. I couldn't stop reading it, over and over. "They want to destroy you. Don't trust anyone." The words played in my head like a broken record. I kept asking myself who had sent it. Was it a warning from a stranger? Or was it someone who knew me well enough to see what was happening behind closed doors? Then I remembered her. The waitress at my promotion party. The one who had whispered, "Don't drink that." Her face came back to me so clearly it gave me chills. She was the only person who had tried to protect me that night. And maybe, just maybe, she had answers. I asked around discreetly. I told people I wanted to thank the staff from the hotel for saving my big night. But really I was trying to find her. After a few calls and favors, I finally got a name. Sarah Mitchell. When I called the number I was given, the voice on the other end was cautious. "Hello? Sarah? My name is Emily Carter. I think you warned me at the Grandview Hotel during my party." There was silence, then a quick breath. "You remembered?" "Yes. I need to see you. Please. It's important." Another pause. Then she said quietly, "Okay, but not over the phone. Too risky." We met 2 days later in a small diner on the edge of town. She wore a baseball cap and kept glancing over her shoulder like she expected someone to follow her. When she finally spoke, her voice trembled. "I shouldn't even be telling you this, but I heard them. Your husband and your friend, Rachel, right?" My throat tightened. "What did you hear?" They were in the service hall before the party started. I was carrying trays past the kitchen door when I caught them talking. "He said something about making sure you didn't get too comfortable with your new title." She laughed and said, "Don't worry, by the end of the night, she won't look so perfect anymore." My stomach turned. "So the drink?" Sarah nodded. "I didn't see them do it, but I know what I heard. That's why I tried to warn you." I sat there, my hands gripping the table, shaking. It was real. I wasn't paranoid. They had wanted to humiliate me. "Why are you helping me?" I whispered. Her eyes softened. "Because you didn't deserve it. You worked for that promotion, and they tried to take it away. People like them. They think they can ruin anyone and get away with it." Tears burned in my eyes. For the first time since that night, someone was on my side. Someone believed me. But the relief was short-lived. Because if Sarah was right, and my heart told me she was, then the people I trusted most had betrayed me in ways I couldn't even imagine. I went home that night, determined to find proof. Daniel had fallen asleep on the couch, his phone in his hand. Carefully, I slid it away from him and went through his messages. At first, it was the usual work chatter. But then I found a thread with Rachel. The messages weren't just professional, they were intimate. Jokes, late-night thoughts, and then words that made my hands go numb. I miss you already. Last night was perfect. When are we telling her? I couldn't breathe. They weren't just plotting against me at work. They were having an affair. My husband, my best friend. For over a year, if the messages were true, I scrolled further and found worse. Rachel had been in contact with board members behind my back. Emails showed her planting doubts, pointing out my emotional instability, hinting that the promotion had been rushed. She positioned herself as the reliable choice, the safe alternative. I dropped the phone back on the couch and ran to the bathroom. My reflection in the mirror looked like a stranger. Pale skin, hollow eyes. I whispered to myself, how could they? But I already knew how. They wanted everything I had. My job, my reputation, my marriage, my life. Still, part of me refused to believe this was my reality. I needed to hear it from someone who wasn't tangled in their web. I thought of my younger brother, Michael. We hadn't been close for years, not since I threw myself into my career and left him behind. But he was blood. Maybe he'd believe me. Maybe he'd remind me I wasn't crazy. I called him, and he agreed to meet at his apartment. When he opened the door, he looked surprised, almost uncomfortable. Emily. Wow. Didn't expect you here, I forced a smile. Can we talk? We sat in his living room, and I spilled everything. The party, the drink, the whispers, Sarah, the messages, the affair. By the time I finished, tears were streaking down my face. Michael just sat there, arms crossed, staring at me. Finally, he said, Emily, you always do this. My heart dropped. What? You always make everything about you. You abandoned this family for money and power. Now you think the whole world is plotting against you. His eyes were cold. Daniel already told me you'd come around spinning stories. He said you're unstable. It felt like someone had punched me in the chest. You believe him? You believe Rachel? Over me? Michael's jaw tightened. They've been there for me more than you ever have. Where were you when Mom was sick? When I needed help? You chose your job. Don't come crying now. Tears blurred my vision. Michael, please, I'm your sister. But he shook his head. You made your choices. Live with them. I left his apartment, broken. I had no one. Back in my car, I clutched the steering wheel and sobbed. First my husband, then my best friend, now my own brother. It felt like the world was closing in, brick by brick, suffocating me. I didn't know how much more I could take. But life wasn't finished crushing me yet. That night, as I sat alone in my bedroom, my phone buzzed. Another message. But this time it wasn't anonymous. It was from one of my colleagues at work. Attached was a photo. I clicked it, and my whole body froze. It was Rachel, smiling in a mirror, her hand on her stomach, a pregnancy test in the frame. The caption read, "Can't wait for this new chapter." The colleague's message followed, "Thought you should know before the rumors spread." I stared at the screen, my heart pounding so hard it hurt. Pregnant. Rachel was pregnant. And deep down, without needing confirmation, I knew Daniel was the father. The room spun, my vision blurred with rage and despair. The betrayal wasn't just emotional, it was total. They weren't just destroying my career, they were building a new life together, right in front of me. I sank to the floor, clutching my phone, shaking so violently I could barely breathe. This was no longer about survival. This was war, and I had nothing left to lose. I didn't know how long I sat on the floor that night, staring at the picture of Rachel with her smug smile and the pregnancy test in her hand. My tears had dried on my cheeks, leaving behind a salty tightness on my skin. My whole body ached, but it was nothing compared to the ache inside me. My marriage was a lie. My best friend had become my enemy. My brother had turned against me. My career was slipping through my fingers. And now, the two people who had betrayed me most were building a future together. For the first time in my life, I thought about giving up, just disappearing, leaving the job, the city, everything behind, starting over somewhere no one knew me. Maybe that would be easier than fighting a war I couldn't win. But then I remembered Sarah, the waitress who had risked everything just to warn me. She could have stayed quiet, pretended she hadn't heard anything, but she didn't. She chose to protect me. A stranger cared more about me than the people closest to me ever had. That memory lit something inside me. A spark. Small at first, but enough. If Sarah believed in me, I had to start believing in myself again. I wasn't done. They thought they'd broken me, but they hadn't seen what I could do when I had nothing left to lose. From that night on, I began planning. I met Sarah again at the same diner. She slid into the booth across from me, eyes sharp like she'd been expecting me. I knew you wouldn't walk away. I need your help, I said. My voice was steady now, not weak. I need proof. Recordings. Anything that shows what they did to me. Sarah nodded slowly. I can get you that. People talk around me like I don't exist. They forget waitresses hear everything. Within a week, she handed me audio recordings. Daniel and Rachel in the service hall again, laughing about how I'd gone down like a rock, mocking how the board would never trust me after that night. Hearing their voices, their cruel laughter, made my blood boil. But it was exactly what I needed. I didn't stop there. At night, when Daniel was asleep, I dug into his desk drawers. I found bank statements showing strange transfers, money moving between accounts with Rachel's name buried in the details. At first, I thought it was just to hide their affair. But then I noticed something bigger. Company funds. Misused. Redirected. And Rachel was at the center of it. My hands shook as I copied everything. Emails, transactions, secret notes Daniel kept hidden. He had been helping her, covering her tracks. I wasn't a hacker, but desperation makes you bold. I found Rachel's work email password. She used the same one she'd used years ago when we first shared an apartment as interns. Buried in her inbox were messages she thought she'd deleted. She had been manipulating board members for months, pointing out every tiny flaw of mine, every mistake I'd ever made, exaggerating them until I looked unstable. She even called me fragile, the same word Daniel had used. Piece by piece, I built my case. Proof of betrayal, proof of fraud, proof that everything they had done wasn't just personal, it was criminal. The night before the board meeting, where Rachel was set to be announced as interim VP, I barely slept. I rehearsed what I would say. My hands trembled as I packed the evidence into a folder. My phone held Sarah's recordings, ready to play. When I walked into the boardroom the next morning, heads turned. The air was thick with whispers. They weren't expecting me. Rachel stood at the front of the room, her belly not yet showing, but her smugness impossible to hide. Daniel sat beside her, his arm casually draped over the back of her chair. He looked up and smirked when he saw me. "Emily," he said smoothly, like my name was sour on his tongue. "Didn't expect to see you here." I ignored him and walked straight to the center of the room. My heels clicked against the floor, each step sharper than the last. I set the folder on the table, my voice calm but fierce. "I'm not here to sit quietly while lies destroy me. I'm here to tell the truth." Rachel laughed softly, shaking her head. "Emily, please. This isn't the time for one of your breakdowns." Her condescension only fueled me. I pulled out my phone and pressed play. The boardroom filled with the sound of Rachel's voice. By the end of the night, she won't look so perfect anymore. Then Daniel's laugh followed. The board will never trust her after this. The room went silent. Every pair of eyes turned to Rachel and Daniel. Rachel's face went pale, her lips parting in shock. That's fake. She's lying." But I wasn't finished. I laid out the bank statements, the emails, the transfers, the cover-ups, and then the final blow. A printed copy of Rachel's pregnancy announcement photo. I didn't have to explain. Everyone in the room already knew what it meant. Daniel's face turned red, veins bulging at his temple. Rachel's hands shook as she tried to snatch the papers back, but the damage was done. The board members exchanged looks, their expressions hard. One of them finally spoke. "This is fraud. And worse. Rachel, you're finished here." Another leaned forward. "Emily, if half of this is true, they'll be facing charges." Rachel tried to speak, but no words came out. Daniel stood up, stammering, but no one listened to him. For once, their voices didn't matter. I gathered the papers calmly and stepped back. My heart was pounding, but my face was steady. I had won. Later that day, Rachel was removed from her position. Daniel tried to chase after me outside the building, his face a mess of panic and anger. "Emily, please, we can fix this. Don't do this to me." I turned to him, my voice cold. "You did this to yourself. And to me. You threw it all away." He reached for my hand, but I pulled it back. "Don't ever touch me again." Michael called me that evening. His voice was broken, guilt dripping from every word. "Emily, I didn't know. I should have believed you. I was wrong." For a long moment, I said nothing. Then I whispered, "Now you know who they really are. I don't need your apology. I need my peace." When I hung up, the silence in my apartment felt different. Not lonely, not empty, just mine. I looked at myself in the mirror. For the first time in months, maybe years, I didn't see a victim. I saw a survivor. Someone stronger than the lies, stronger than the betrayal. Sometimes betrayal doesn't break you, it remakes you. They wanted me to fall, but instead, I rose, and this time I'll never let anyone hold the glass to my lips again.